Today is the 12th of March 2013. My name is Arjen Lamey, also known as the Artrix, and you're watching episode 2 of the Artrix Art and Vlog show. That's right, I decided to go with the name Artrix Art and Vlog show instead of the whole mess I came up with during the first episode of the show. That's pretty much it. Though it has been suggested to me to not reflect this in the video titles, because apparently YouTube uses the titles for indexing and what have you, opposed to things like tags and like the video descriptions. So I'll use the titles just to sort of describe the videos and use the playlist to name the series, so to speak. So thank you for tuning in again. My first video was kind of a success, I suppose. I certainly gotten into the whole routine of editing the videos and uploading it to YouTube, though I still must say that the upload times, the time it takes to upload something to YouTube is still ridiculously long. I have no clue why they don't support anything like FTP uploads, but I suppose that's a YouTube thing. I don't know, it works, and I suppose it's not that bad. First world problems and what have you. So yeah. So thank you for tuning in again. This time I'm working on a piece called Chaos and Evil. Which is of course an allusion to the fact that it's all about humanized versions of Discord and Chrysalis. My intention was to make a picture that just depicted the humanized versions of the two characters. I didn't really have anything in mind in terms of what they were doing or like a specific situation. So it was really just a high effort piece. Just showing the characters. And before I set out to make this picture, I made some concept art first. A common mistake I see is people jumping right into designing the character on the spot and not really figuring out what to do with them. And that certainly is the case for me when it comes to both characters. I first drew a humanized Chrysalis, I think, in mid-2012. And as a concept, it wasn't very original at all. Some people thought otherwise, but it was certainly lacking and low effort. And I really didn't do any effort to sort of perfect the design until I actually started working on this piece. So the second concept art for Chrysalis turned out to be a lot better. Already had the whole Victorian aesthetic to it. The only difference is that between that version and the final version is that she had a higher cut dress that actually showed some bare legs and some default high heels. And that was the case until I started to research actual Victorian footwear, and they're actually really nice. I was genuinely surprised by the intricacies of those types of shoes, and I'm really glad that I did it and I was able to include in this picture. As for Discord, I definitely needed more takes to get that character right. One reason being that almost by definition, Discord is not a very easy character to humanize. He's literally like several kinds of animals mixed into one, and it really took me about 8 or so takes to really get a solid idea of what I wanted to do with that character. And I must say that in the end I was rather pleased, especially by how the mix of different kinds of clothing sort of work together. And you know, Discord, if there's two defining features aside from the whole mishmash thing. When it comes to Discord, it's that it's his distinct face and like the whole, yeah, he's pretty slender. So those are the two things I try to incorporate into this here drawing. And some people have pointed out that I didn't expect him to be this old. I am of the personal opinion that he doesn't really strike me as being that particularly young. He's certainly older than the characters in the show, and while he might not be as old as I depicted him in my version, he's definitely no youngster, so to speak. So I think it's pretty fitting. Also, he seems to be the character that can actually manage to make being old wicked cool awesome. So yeah, not much I can say about that, except that Discord really pulls it off, and I'm glad with the result. Also, like I said, it was a really nice foray into a high effort piece featuring these characters. Also, I for the first time I actually went ahead and saved some of the low effort sketches and whatever I drew during the stream, and I actually put a link in the video description so you can to the deviation, so you can see that as well. And of course there's also a link to the final piece as well, so make sure to check those out if you're watching this time lapse and you haven't already. And with that said, let's move on to the next subject, which is Equestria Girls. It is becoming a thing. There's no way to go around it, and it's going to happen. For those not in the loop, Hasbro basically decided, you know what, that Monster High thing is doing quite well for itself. So you know what, let's take our most popular franchise and basically turn it into high school hijinks, the show, and let's just use the characters from My Little Pony. And this isn't really a problem per se, mind you. I mean, there's a lot of ways to go about this, but the first concept art I've seen already left me rather unimpressed. Like, they basically took it was like bad fan art where they literally took all the elements of the ponies and just applied it one-to-one to their human counterparts. And the most notable element in here is their skin color. So instead of, you know, it looks uncanny as shit. It's like they have gangrene or whatever it's called. It just doesn't work. I mean, how are these characters supposed to assimilate into human society if they look like freaking mutants, for fuck's sake? So here we have the first concept art, and you know, it's bad, but it's also, mind you, while I'm saying all this, I do realize the target audience and what have you. So I'm really sort of trying to look at this. I try to keep this in mind, but also keep in mind that the original show, like My Little Pony, it has the same thing and still came out pretty well. So just so we are on the same page, all right? So here we got this whole Equestria Girls thing, and the first concept art was released. It was basically, you know, it had all those things, but they left certain parts. And I'm going about this because then I released the second, quote, official release. I think it was the New York Post or some shit. But let me just say, it has exactly everything it should not have. It's got the goddamn pony ears. It's got wings and shit. It's got like the hair is styled in such a way. At first glance, I thought they had freaking tails. And then I realized, oh wait, they did the hair in such a way that looks like they got tails and whatever. And the worst part about all of this was, at first I saw an edit. At first I thought, wait a minute, so they changed the weird ass pony skin color to regular human skin color, so it didn't look entirely ridiculous. But then I realized, oh wait a minute, I'm watching a goddamn edit. It's still the weird ass pony hide color thing. And to top it all off, they got goddamn cutie marks on their cheeks. And I'm not talking about butt cheeks. That there would have been some sort of an ironic hilarity to that. But they got their cutie marks on the cheeks, on their face. Like right below the eyes, for fuck's sake. I mean, really, who came up with that shit? Like, who seriously thought, hey, you know guys, let's put freaking cutie marks on their faces. That's not creepy at all. Well, here's a surprise for you. It is. It is freaking creepy as shit. Like, there's a lot better places to put freaking cutie marks. I don't know, on their shoulders, where it's socially acceptable and actually makes an iota of sense. So yeah, they decided to go with the whole face tattoo, which is ridiculous as shit. And oh yeah, and then there was the rumor that that Spike was to become Twilight's pet dog for some reason. Not entirely thrilled about that either. In any way, it seems like the whole thing is starting to shape up to look like beginner's fan art, basically. Where they basically just sort of literally take everything about the ponies and just try and do a one-to-one conversion. That, or they're exactly doing this because they're afraid that some fan artist will sue them for original character do not steal. Yeah, that actually would have been kind of amusing, but it's tragic in a sense that if this were to be the case, it's rather sad that it has to end this way. Yeah, but really, I've seen fan art of humanized ponies that are a lot better than what has been presented thus far, and who knows, perhaps they'll drop the whole thing, perhaps they'll go with other designs, but I'm not counting on it. Also, there's the whole issue of, okay, so we got this new series, how is it gonna relate to the original series, you know? One would hope that it would be a self-contained thing, like the series just is, and it's not explained how the characters got there. It just starts out like, okay, here's the characters from My Little Pony, they're human now, deal with it. And there's no attempt to explain how it got to be. It just is. It works just fine for shows like Tailspin and I think Darkwing Duck and even freaking DuckTales, where they just do what they do, and there's no attempt to explain the whole ordeal. But as far as I know, there's actually gonna be a movie that explains the whole thing, like how they got into this universe. And yeah, in my opinion, that's not the best way to go about doing this sort of thing. I mean, if you're presented with the safer option of just doing the other series and taking a franchise that's already widely accepted and established and what have you, and sort of tying it to this new thing, it's rather risky, and it's not necessary. Let's just put it that way. It's not necessary, and if they just did the whole series separately, I think a whole lot of people would have been okay with that. With that out of the way, I suppose I should wrap up the video. So here's the default YouTube stuff. Like the video, subscribe to me, and put it in your favorites. And go to my Twitter, subscribe, follow me, stalk me, whatever you do. And go to DeviantArt and go to whatever other social media place you manage to find me. That's basically it. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time. The end.